Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Imperium magazine, which is number 17, and it's more containers, so we'll get straight into it. Right, so we get obviously our plastic, we get the magazine, and we get another trifold sheet, this time on Awakening Empire. Myriad Dynasties. Right, so let's have a look, shall we? So, first of all, background on Ultramarines, the Blue Wonder Boys, Smurf Marines, whatever you want to call them. And let's be honest, they are the poster boys for 40k. Ultramarines, injuries and grudges. In battle, after battle, Space Marines must endure the deadly weaponry of their countless foes. Many battle brothers bear scars from past encounters and hold a lingering hatred for the foe that inflicted them. So we've got a random generator for... we've got a random generator table here. So you can basically roll D33 and come up with a reason for your hatred and the object of your hatred. So for example, you've got bears a lingering hatred for canoptek scarabs. So you can, I assume you roll twice, once for the prefix and then once for the suffix. So yeah, okay, just a bit of fun on that. Nice picture, which I believe is in the core rulebook as well, of an apothecary tending a wounded Imperial Fist. And we have more random generator tables for Ultramarines Hero Injury Table. Injury location and injury cause. So like left leg, left eye, right eye, internal organ, left arm, right arm, spine, jaw. Excuse me. Pierced by war scythe, lacerated by flensing claw, incinerated by enemy fire, etc., etc. And then you have Ultramarine squad injuries and losses generator table. So injuries or losses and the cause. So bones fractured, maimed, wounded, hobbled, armour damaged, Vox units damaged, flesh burned, partially blinded, deafened, and either by enemy artillery, strafing run, fusillade of Gauss fire or Gauss fire. Take your pick. So yeah, that's just seems a bit of fun. You have Outcasts, which goes into your forces section, and it's basically info on flayed ones and some other Necron units, such as Scorpec destroyers, Locust destroyers, and other types of destroyer. We've then got Worlds of the Imperium, the realm of mankind. The Imperium's territories encompass countless systems spanning the length and breadth of the galaxy. Even in the most remote and punishing environment, humanity's colonies cling to survival. Some information on astropaths as well, and the main types of worlds. So you got hive worlds, feudal worlds, feral worlds. You're also going to have like death worlds as well, like Katachan. I believe that's a death world. And then we've got more info on building your Munitorum armoured containers, which is just basically a repeat of the destructions that you had previously, and then how to paint. And with this one, you're painting it Screamer Pink instead of black, like you did the last one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build these, but I won't build them on camera. I'll build this Munitorum set, and then I will show you how I painted it, like this. So I'll do a quick rundown of how I painted this in a kind of a green military colour. Okay, secure drop sites. So again, we have a playthrough on the large playmat, and the mission is Necrons have compromised one of the Ultramarines' landing sites and are preparing for an ambush. Excuse me. Start again, shall we? Necrons have compromised one of the Ultramarines' landing sites and are preparing an ambush for the incoming Space Marine transports. The Primaris Librarian must drive the Necrons back and deactivate the landing beacon before his allies descend into the jaws of the Xenos' trap. So Necrons, set the trap. The Necrons have established positions around the landing beacon. They must keep the beacon active in order to spring their trap. And Space Marines silence the beacon. With Vox channels disrupted by Necron jamming, the Librarian is unable to warn the fleet above. He must seize and deactivate the beacon to avert disaster. Okay, so you're using Necron warriors with Gauss flayers, flayed ones as reserves, and you're going to be using your terrain that you've built in this issue and the previous issues. So rules and data sheet for the Librarian, and then we're going to go into a turn-by-turn playthrough for the game. Okay. And then in number 18, we are getting a Necron Technomancer, and then in 19 we're getting more, or the final sprue for the Munitorum Containers. With our trifold, this is Myriad Dynasties. So this will give you information on the various dynasties that inhabit the Necron tomb worlds. So we have Nihilak Dynasty, Zarakan, Mefrit, Celtic, and then we have a map of tomb worlds, I presume. Zarakan, Urusk, Nihilak, Damos. Yeah, so it looks like main tomb worlds and the order that they're affiliated to. Okay, so yeah, pretty cool. So you've seen the plastic before. I'll bring you down for this. You've seen the plastic before. It's a nice little set. It's nicely moulded. Released in, if I can find the info, which on this particular sprue, oh, there it is. Originally released in 2016. So there you go. So you have your armoured container with the lids and doors. You get 3 barrels in 6 halves, and then you get 4 crates, 2 of each. And the Munitorum containers have storm bolters that you can place on top. So there you go. That is that, and I'll build one of the containers and we'll do a paint video. Hiya. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to paint this container. Now I've built it in the same way that I built the last one, fully enclosed, and all I've done is I've primed it with Death Guard green spray paint. So it's had a good coverage of Death Guard green, and the first paint I'm going to use is a contrast paint, and it's Dark Angels green. Although any dark green will do. Now I'm going to use a wide flat brush for putting this paint on, just basically so it's quicker. And basically you want a really good solid base, which you will then use as your shading layer when you start dry brushing the lighter colours over the top. So I will do this and then we'll come back when we're ready to start dry brushing. Once you've painted your container all over with Dark Angel's green or a suitable dark green, it could be Caliban green or whatever, I'm next going to use Deathcore Khaki, Deathcore Drab, which is a good sort of like military green. And this is going to be a heavy dry brush, and then dry brush a lighter shade over it with a Legion green. I'm going to use a artist brush here, quite a thick artist brush, and taking a fair old dollop because you will use it. I'm just leaving that, and I shall work into the bristles. So we're going for a heavy dry brush, and essentially I'm just going to start dry brushing all over. The idea is that you're going to cover most of the panels and certainly bring out all the raised detail, but in the deeper recesses that you can't necessarily get to, they'll be shaded by the darker green. So we're not going to use any washes on this. And as you can see, bring some light in, as you can see, we're starting to add in some colour compared to the rest of the container. I'm going to continue doing this until I've covered everything and I'm happy with how it's gone. Right, so the next step is to add in a lighter dry brush, and I'm using Elysian green for this. So again, you're dry brushing, so as little on your brush as you can, and literally, that's probably a bit too much still. That's a bit better. Literally, I'm just doing that. Do this everywhere as a highlight. Excuse me. Okay, you can see I started. It will dry slightly darker, so don't worry if it looks particularly bright. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is add in some metallic chipping to signify wear and tear. So you've probably seen this hundreds of times before, but just get some suitable metallic paint on your bit of sponge that you're going to use, and then just get rid of most of it so that when you put it on you're not leaving masses. Now I'm going to chip around things like the opening for the hatches on top, like so. So you can see the paint starting to go on there, and I'll just add in some chipping and wear, and you can go back and add in as much as you like. So on the side here I'm going to, and the top, obviously where it bangs onto the ground, I'll add in, and it's just basically chips and scuffs to add a bit of weathering to your mini, give it a little bit more depth. I'm also going to weather up the lifting eyes, these little pieces on the corners here, because obviously they will get knocked about and chipped and the paint rubbed off as they're constantly hooked up on metal chains. So these will get quite a liberal dose of the metallic paint. I'm using lead belcher for this. And the last one there. And I'll continue. What I'm going to do next is using silver. Again, this is lead belcher. I'm just going to add in some scratches. So I'm just going to do that. Like scuff marks. On here to represent where it's been bashed about, in particular perhaps more heavily scuffed around the edges and potentially the tops. Now I'm going to use a tiny little bit of Abaddon Black to just paint the keypad below the servo skull there. Then we're back to lead belcher to paint the skull here. There's also a piece of pipe work which comes down from the keypad, which would be the armoured cable, which gets a coat of lead belcher. And then what I do is just flattening out the tip of my brush, I will run it gently over the buttons so that it brings the buttons on the keypad out. I'm then using Avalon Sunset as the base colour for the lamps that are top and bottom to the entrance. And as you can see, these are surrounded by a wire cage, so it's not 100% important that you stay within the little boxes defined by the wire cage, because you're going to go over that wire with some lead belcher, but try and be as neat and tidy as possible. As you can see, we've painted the yellow in on the lamps. What's going to happen next is I'm going to revert back to the lead belcher, and I'm going to use the lead belcher to basically paint the cage that's around the lamps. So obviously I recommend using a fine detail brush if you have one. Okay. And there we go. That's pretty much all I do for the containers, because they are only scenery after all. That's the one I did with the last time we got a container. So there you can see. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And ready to add to your battles. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.